правда, на английском, поэтому вспоминаем, включаем переводчики, если что нужно будет. Do you ready?
Yes, I understood a word you said, but I'm ready.
I said just right.
Yes, hopefully.
І так, друзі, зустрічайте Мануель Гідіс, наш спеціальний гість, our special guest, our special speaker, Мануель Гідіс.
Stop it, I'm gonna get
You're amazing, darling. Let's go.
Don't make me flash. I'm gonna run. Thank you, Alexa. I feel like dancing now. Sorry, down. Good evening, everyone. How are you feeling?
Great.
Amazing. First of all, I want to say thank you to Alexandra. Can we give her a round of applause? So, Alexandra and I met only a couple of months ago. We attended a mutual event, but we never met in person. So she sent me a text around November. And she told me a little bit about what she was working on. She's a PR entrepreneur, beauty and fashion. And I said, why don't we meet? So we were meant to meet for 1 hour in December. We started talking. 3 hours in, we were still talking. So we felt like, okay, this is good chemistry. And then she's invited me over. So first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me over today. My name is Manuel Gidisa. I come from southern Italy. Raise your hand if you've been to Italy before. If you,
Yes.
a lot of people. So for those that have the hands raised, have you been to the south?
Yes.
Where in the south?
Sicily.
Sicily. Anyone else? Where? Sardinia? Okay. Anyone been to Puglia? Oh, that's it. My favorite person of the night. I am from Puglia, so it's the heel of the booth in the southern part of Italy. But I've lived in England since 2008, so it's almost 15 years now. I've been reflecting as I was kind of preparing for this talk. What is it? How can I bring value to this conversation? Because I have, before coming to England in 2008, I've lived and worked and traveled in different countries. I went to Rome for the very first time, and I come from a small town of 9,000 people. It was a massive city. It's really scared the heck out of me. And then from there, I lived in Finland, in Helsinki. And you go there, you start afresh. You have a little budget, I had a little budget. You know nothing about the culture, and you don't have a network, so you don't know anyone. I don't know what many of you, I know that through the chat with Alexander, some of you, you've come, if you come to the UK over the last 6 months or so, I guess, how many of you have been in UK for longer, even before the war? Just a few people, so most of you are here as new. So I don't know what it feels like to kind of have to be forced out of your country because of what's happening. I know some of you have made the difficult decisions, but what I know of is when you start from scratch, particularly in England, there are a lot of things that if you don't know, you're going to do a lot of trial and errors. So when I first came here, I signed up for a university degree, and it was going to cost me £8,000. I didn't have the money, but I signed up anyway, and I got through. So I remember day 2 in England, I was in a town called Reading. I was literally going from shop to shop, from restaurant to restaurant to get a job. And by day 2, I got a job there, which made me super excited, but I said, that's not gonna cover £8,000, that's way too much money. So then I applied for a scholarship, and I won the scholarship, but it was still not enough. I got really lucky when a friend of mine, her mom offered to give me the money that I needed without interest. So the first year was incredibly unbelievable. I didn't understand much about the culture, but it got me through. Within the next 8 years, by living in the UK particularly, what I found is that in 2017 I started my own business. I work as a consultant. I used to work as a consultant, now I'm as a coach to leaders in companies and people. And I went from minimum wage to a very good, healthy business and a good professional profile. But along the way, I made so many mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. I've invested in the wrong courses. I've had the wrong circle of people around me. So I made so many mistakes. The purpose of me here today is to share 3 things that have helped me throughout this process, so that for those of you that have arrived here, you get a better chance of, instead of doing trial and error, you can accelerate for some of the things, your progress for some of the things that I've learned. Some of this stuff is also supported by research. I did a little bit of research to compare the Ukrainian culture, which is very similar to the Italian culture in many aspects, and the UK, the British culture. How many British people here? One person. So she's gonna hold me accountable and not get upset with me if I say something.
Absolutely.
So effectively, three things. One, the quality of your relationships here, probably this is true everywhere, but that has been true particularly for me. The quality of your relationships is as important as the quality of your craft. So you might be very good at what you do. You might be cosmetologists, I've been doing research, that's not my field, hairdressers, and also models, and you might have different really expertise that work really well. What I found here when I graduated, I was super qualified. I had 3 degrees from 2 universities, but I didn't know anyone, and I didn't know how to navigate it. I used to use online tools. But what I learned over time, that it is important when you go to a new country, and it was similar not just to the UK, when I went to Finland, when I went to Rome. By developing good quality relationships, then it opens up a lot more opportunities later on. But how do you develop good quality relationship in a culture, in a country you don't know much about? So when I did a bit of research, there is a book by Ellen Mayer, it's called The Culture Map. It's a great tool. If you're interested, come and I'll tell you what the name is. So it compares different culture. These are some of the things that I've observed by reading this tool. One of the main difference between the Ukrainian culture and the UK culture is it's called task first versus relationship first cultures. This is not a positive or negative, like every culture has their different aspects. But in order to start developing good quality relationships, and I really do struggle a lot for a very long time, I used to prioritize relationship first and then focus on the work. Here, what I found is the opposite way around. So the more if you are starting a new job, I know some of you were business owners, I couldn't quite understand the Q&A, so I don't know what you do earlier on. But if you're able to provide, to show that you are reliable at what you do, you at your craft, you've learned something that you're really good at, and you can demonstrate that on a regular basis. What I found in my experience through this research that I was looking at, you tend to develop a better trusting relationship. And then on a personal relationship, that can evolve more over time. But task first versus relationship first. The second thing that's particularly, that I struggled a little bit when I first came here, it was around time. In Italy, particularly in the southern part of Italy, if you've been to Puglia, you might have noticed, we're very relaxed around time. We might be late for appointments, we might cancel last minute. It's not intended in any way that is offensive. However, what I noticed here, that people value the time very importantly. So being on time, people have schedules and they really value the time. Even I now, as a coach, when I work with someone one-on-one, I really value people being on time. By being late can be perceived, not always, and London can be a little bit different than other places in the United Kingdom, in my experience. It can be perceived as a little bit of a lack of respect. And I think it is important because when we do develop relationships, we can create more opportunities in the future. But if we sometimes do not know that we're doing something that can be perceived as offensive, then that will close off a lot of opportunities for us. So time is important. Be on time. When you commit, show up and do it well with positivity. The third thing that I learned about, this is still true now, my culture and the Ukrainian culture, we tend to be quite direct. So we say what we think, and sometimes can come across as quite offensive. Particularly here, what I've learned is I really had to learn to be flexible in my communication style. So instead of, for example, if I disagree with someone, instead of directly saying, I think that's wrong, which I would do, this is what my parents do whenever I go and travel and visit Italy, and then I feel like, okay, I'm back to Italy now, right? But now it's better to ask a question perhaps, right? If you consider, instead of challenging a particular statement, or I think that's wrong, which seems to be quite direct and confrontational, you want to say something, if you consider doing this in a different way. So I think that was quite powerful, because initially I was showing up as myself and didn't know the cultural differences, but when I started thinking about how I could learn to communicate, that made a lot more different. My interviews when I started get a lot better, and I could connect with people, have relationships that were more long-lasting over time. The other thing I want to share, so we're talking about not being confrontational, not being too direct, and the last thing is about networking. And raise your hand if you've been to a networking event over the last maybe few months or so. Few people, okay, not everyone. So this is what I noticed during networking. And I used to do a little bit more networking, I do a lot less of it now. And it is important if you are, and you have different professions, I know. I was, a friend of mine, she's actually a fashion stylist, she lived in England for quite some time, so I checked with her as well. But one of the things that is really important when we meet someone during a networking event, number one is that really apply filters, right? There is so many people and there's so much opportunity, but the quality of the relationship is as important as the quality of your craft. And applying a filter to the type of people that you spend time with and the type of relationship you want to develop is very important. Now, when there is someone that you, let's say you go networking, one of the most common mistakes that I find and puts me off, quite frankly, when someone comes and tells you directly, so what do you do? People go straight for what do you do because they want to try and find out whether they can get from you. There is value to come from a place of generosity. What can you bring to the conversation, even though each one of us have, for you, for many situations, I don't know your personal circumstances, it might be very difficult situations, but always, particularly here, coming from a place of generosity pays off in the long term, as opposed to try and get what you need in the short term. It's great for basic survival, what do you do, and maybe we help each other out, but for me, it never actually helped me build relationships later on with people that you can actually like and trust. So slow down. The day after you met someone, follow up. Follow up, maybe you arrange to meet at a later stage, but come from a place of giving value and adding value instead of a place of trying to drain and extract value from your relationship. I think that applies to every culture, to be quite honest with you, but I found it particularly true here, at least as I was growing my business. Initially it was very transactional. So the first area that I want to summarize is the quality of your craft, or what you do, is as important as the quality of your relationships. And if you take into account the cultural differences, you can maybe speed up your time and accelerate how you get and create opportunities for both yourself and the people in your life, your friends, and the people obviously that you care about. The second area I want to talk about is, I'm going to refer to the research. It says there are two types of cultures. Usually there is a high context culture and a low context culture. I don't know what your experience was. What's your name, sorry? Katya. My mom is called Katya, so really? Perfect connection. She's from Puglia, she's called Katya, so it's amazing. And you might have noticed when you went to visit Salento, is that there are lots of things that happen, but they are taken for granted. You might think that's strange. Why do they do things that way? Has that happened to you?
Yeah.
Do you have any particular kind of example or something?
I was there on holiday, so it was a bit different experience, but honestly very, very friendly people. But like you said, super relaxed. You can
be direct with me, it's okay. I'm okay, you can go. Whichever style you want, it's okay.
No, I mean, it's so random. Like, in the middle of the day, everyone just bring their chair, they sit together, they chat next to the seaside. Like, when are you working, guys?
Yeah, so there are lots of rules, and that's an experience where you don't know why people do what they do, they just do it. Yeah. And for me, that's not strange. So when I go there, to me, I don't even think. But because you were coming from your culture, when there, you notice the difference. So that means Italy is a high context culture. There is a lot of rules, but they're not spoken. Mm-hmm. Probably similar to the Ukraine, according to this research that I was looking at. The thing here is a low context culture. People read a lot less there's a lot less assumptions, but there's a lot more communicative. So for example, if you start a new job, it's very clear what the expectations are. There are kind of lists. Someone is nodding, I can tell. Do you have any experience yourself?
I think everything is in a list here. So like
Everything is, sorry?
in a list.
In a list,
So
yeah.
there's a rule to do every single basic thing, and everything is done exactly the same way by
Yes.
each colleague in the team, which is really strange.
Yeah, don't you find that strange,
Yeah.
right? Yes. And it happens in many contexts. So at work, it can happen when you enter into a partnership, into a collaboration with someone. So that society is a low context culture. This is not about good or bad. This is how culture develops over time. It's not for me to kind of make judgments around that. But for me, I had to learn to be more communicative. I need to improve the way I communicate. Now, it's not perfect. It's always a constant learning process, particularly if that's not your culture. But I had to learn to be clearer. I was like, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to get on it. Why is this happening? It's shocking initially, but then over time you get to adjust. What that means for you specifically is the more you learn to refine your skills, so your language skills, and the more opportunity will pan out over time. Because sometimes when we walk into a place and there are new rules that we don't know about, we tend to be kind of almost get personally offended at times. It's like, okay, did she say that? Did she mean that? Do they think that I'm not competent in the work that I do? But the reality has nothing to do with that. It's just about learning to communicate in a way that is more clear so that they understand your expectation and what you're thinking, and you understand how they're thinking. The good news is there is a lot of resources here in London, even free courses or online, very low budget kind of speaking, learn how to speak or become a better communicator, pitching, business skills, relationship skills. There's a website called Eventbrite, you might have heard of it. And there's a lot of opportunities to kind of improve that, but I cannot stress that enough, right? It's a lot more difficult to just try and wing it, try and guess it, than actually get to spend time with people that are from here, but also being an open-minded and learn to be more communicative and open in our approach to be communicative. Because in low context culture, we don't read through the context, but we read through the rules and the lists that are made here because they help that type of facilitation. And the last thing, because I close off, I might be a little bit late, is around, raise your hands if you're a business owner or you want to run your business or you already have intentions. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the back, quite a few people. I know you're Alexander, we talked about that. I think this is really important. This is not true only of the UK. In the United Kingdom is a really advanced country economically, but that means that the market is really saturated. There is a lot of competition, a lot of great people doing great things, but the competition is very high. When you go to a job interview, or when you are doing a pitch, if you're pitching for, I don't know, funds, if you have a startup, or if you're pitching your business, talk about what you do. So the job that you do, I'm an hairdresser, I'm a stylist, I'm a cosmetologist, but also talk a little bit about what it is, why you do it. Now, from the talk you did earlier, I only heard the word why once. I don't know if we are saying the same things. But what I mean in this context is, let's say there are people having a job interview. When we say, let's say, I've been a hairdresser since I was 15, right? There's lots of hairdressers. I really liked up. I love when I used to do the hair to my aunties, for example, my ankles. And at the end of me doing the hair, they seem a lot more confident and happy or joyful. Or I love the fact that whenever I do my job, this is the effect it has on people. People feel more confident. They feel more feminine. They may feel more that their brand is a lot stronger than it was before. You don't have to use my words for it. But giving people an opportunity to have an understanding of why you do your job allows them to connect a little bit more with you and you as a person, as well as you as a person that does the job. So talk about what you do it, but also talk about why you do it, why you got into it. Tell a little bit about yourself. And if 10 people are to only talk about their experience, I've 10 years experience, 5 years of experience, it might not be as helpful because they don't connect you with you on a personal level. And by doing this, by sharing a little bit about yourself, you really help people to connect with your why. And when they connect with your why, there is no competition because your story is unique to you. No one else has what you do, and no one else does it for the reason you do. So these are the three things I wanted to talk about. I just want to finish off by saying, I truly believe that 2023 in the UK now is a period of tremendous opportunity for people like yourself that can bring a really fresh perspective, but also you're focused, you already have a great community that Alexander is creating by leveraging each other and each other's help, but also bringing fresh perspectives and also investing in yourself. If you were to kind of follow the advice that I shared with you today, if you do that consistently, I believe there is a great opportunity to really shape up this year the way you want it. It's not going to happen overnight, but with a little bit of consistency, it's going to really make a difference. Maybe 6 months from now, 12 months from now, a year from now, when you start opening up opportunities, not just for yourself, but also for all people, because you develop close relationships, the people that you care about, be it your family, your friends, or the people in your team. So I'm just going to say that's done. That's the end of the conversation. Alexandra is over there. Thank you very much for listening. So that was particularly my message.
Thank you so much, Manuel. You're amazing. Yeah? Кто со мной согласен, что он восхитительный? Maybe somebody want to ask something? No?
I scared everyone off.
What is the level of English there? I just wanted to
I have
ask.
no idea what you guys are talking about. No, I'm not going to help you.
It's good that you know. A quick question. What's your business? Can you tell us?
Up to 2017, I used to work as a consultant. So I worked with Oxford University Press, some of the big consultants, big corporates. So Shell, SAE, Oxford University Press. And my background is psychology, so I understand a lot of human behavior. In 2017, I set up my business, and I'm an executive coach and a life coach. What that means is I work people to, over the next 3 to 6 months, to create something from nothing. Now, it could be a business. Right now, I'm working with a guy, he's called Steve. He used to have a business of around 40 people. Because of the pandemic, he really suffered. So he scaled down his business. Brexit and the pandemic caused him to really suffer, to lose a lot of cash, a lot of profitability, and he's about to go bust. At the same time, he's going through a separation with his ex, not wife, but partner. And they also have a child. So there is a lot going on. My job as a coach is to help you look at the next 6 months in the future, what it is that you can create, what it is we can create together. So I create an environment where you and we are going to look at your mindset, we're going to look at your skill set. If you're pitching your business, you need to know how to pitch your business, to like storytell and also present. But also we look at things like energy. How can you sustain high energy? Yourself, you have a business, and so business is difficult. You have to be on high energy all the time. And that's not an easy thing to do. There are certain things you have to do to consistently show up in a certain level. So and the fourth one is vision. What it is that you want to create and why is important for you. Once you have a clear enough vision, you are compelled to do it. Whereas if you're not clear, then over time, then you're going to get demotivated. So this is a framework that I developed called the Bulletproof Advantage. It's a framework where I work one-on-one with individuals and I help them create what they want to create, which part, which area of their life they want to change. Usually the people that come to me, they're very entrepreneurial. They go do things, they make things happen. And I like working with those people because proactive people, once they have the right distinction, the right insight, they're going to go do the work and then they bring it to life. So that's the type of work that I do. You seem not confused. You seem very thoughtful.
I just want to know, do you have a team or is it just you?
I work, depends who I work with. I rely on a network of people. I was talking to someone initially, and we were talking together when I was spinning upstairs. And around PA's opportunities as personal assistants she was looking for. So I have a network of people in London when I work with a client, Steve, for example, he was doing everything by himself. So what I do is, through the network, I bring in, I have a person called Charlotte. She has her own PA company. So I leverage her company, so we do a collaboration, and she works with the client. So I use a network to build a team, but they don't work for me, if you know what I mean. Sometimes when I work with bigger companies, I work with the leader of the company and some 5, 6, 7 people in their organization. So, and then I use their teams to do the work. But as a team, as an organization, I work by myself. I just use other skills to do that.
Where are you based?
I'm based in London, near Olympia, West Kensington, close that area. Any other
I
question?
think I'm your client now.
Ah, you're my client.
It's good choice, because I'm his client.
I get lots of clients now. What's better than that?
So maybe somebody have another question? Может, у кого-то еще есть вопросы?
Which is the best way to advertise your business? What do you think? Is it
What's your business?
Your business, for example.
My business?
Yes.
I work with small groups of people,
Yeah.
referrals.
But how did you advertise? So how people know about your business?
What business do you have in mind? So I'm making a specific example so that it helps you, because my business may be different from yours. What do you have in mind?
Okay, for example, beauty.
When you say beauty, what do you mean specifically? What do you have in mind?
Beauty salon?
Makeup artist.
Makeup artist.
Yes.
So you work by yourself? You want to work by yourself?
Yes.
So I'm not an expert in your field particularly. I can share what I know based on my experience. So by yourself, I think it is important you develop a brand. So do you have a portfolio? Like online presence portfolio? I think initially, have you just arrived to the United Kingdom? You've been here for a long time?
4 years.
4 years, so you've been here for quite some time. How do you generate business? Through referrals, right? So I think my sense is, based on what you're telling me, and I know this is a very kind of quick conversation, unless you build a mini brand around you that people recognize you for example, I talked about the last point, right? Don't talk about what you do, talk about why you do it. So if you are in a room like this with 30 of, maybe not this audience, but an audience that is your target audience, and you tell them why you do it. Now, let's not go into that now because it's a personal conversation, but people relate on why you do your business. And that way you're telling a story. When you tell a story, you develop a brand. When you develop a brand, people will start coming to you. So and these things require trial and error. You need to find the audience, and then many speak around the audience. It's a skill that over time you develop, the more you do it. If you do it only by referral, you're never gonna grow. You know this, you've been trying in 5 years. I failed miserably on this myself, right? And there are other things you can also do, right? Partnering with Alexandra as a PR person that's creating a community. And through partnership, you give yourself visibility, and then you use social media and expertise. I'm using you as an example, and that becomes your profile. But once you become a profile, you become the go-to for a person that, for example, that helps women feel more confident and feminine or comfortable in their shoes. I'm just saying, I don't know exactly what it is, right, for yourself. So, but I think once you become a brand, then people will come to you. You don't have to push your services out. You don't have to over-rely on one-on-one relationships, because that's not going to allow you to grow as fast.
Thank you.
Okay, and you have a question?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I have a question. So, in your field, if, for example, the person would like to be a coach, so do you have some license? What's your opinion about ICF? Is it worse?
My opinion is a bit very, I can say that in a Italian-Ukrainian way,
Right.
very direct.
Right.
Do you prefer me to say
Yeah,
that?
sure.
I think with coaching, so for me, coaching is not a profession, although you have to say it, it's a tool set. In my experience, if you meet enough people, and obviously a formal qualification can help with confidence and give you all the right tools that you need to help people. You can't just start and I'm a coach, but you don't know the process of it. I think that's always helpful. In terms of gaining official qualifications, I personally don't believe in that, because I think I know how to help a particular type of person, because my life experience is unique. I use coaching as a tool set, but I can also use mentoring. I can also use my network. So coaching is some tools that I can use. And because I work with a smaller group of clients, then I can pick and choose the people that I work with, because my relationship and with a person we cannot be the coaches for everybody else. We can only be the coaches for the specific people that are okay for us. And going all the way into a 3, 4, 5, 6 years qualification, I think my work in corporate, in large companies, when they want to have that qualification, that's not the path I chose. I have coaching qualifications, but they are from the United States. I spent a bit of time there to learn and refine the skills. So for me, I learned it by doing. The last thing I would say is, it's great as a coach if you have the tools, but you have the life experience. Because the life experience allows you to connect. Sometimes coaches, we are 18 years of age, want to become coaches. There is not much life experience we can bring to it. I'm not answering directly your questions. Every path is different. I don't have anything against ICF. However, to me, it doesn't say much. It's not really valuable from my point of view, because I might have an ICF and I have no clients. And my style is different, and my coaching might be different from what the standard set of coaching that ICF might give me, if you know what I mean.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Last question. Who wants to ask something interesting? Maybe Vincenzo?
Vincenzo, I'm disappointed, Vincenzo. You were asking a lot of questions there. I didn't understand a word you said. I'm not gonna leave this place unless you ask me a
I
question.
think he likes just women speaker.
All right, okay.
He's
so-
learning
Fair enough.
Italian now. So it's fine.
Don't worry, don't put it on
How
the
much
spot.
was the personal coaching?
How much it costs personal coaching? It depends who you ask. So I don't offer coaching. I offer an initial 1 hour consultation. I might be the right person, I might not. If I'm not the right person, I suggest someone else. It's based on what your project is, what your impact is. The business I'm working in, they already have a certain revenue, so I can work with them, not just revenue based. Is there chemistry? Can I work with that person? Can they work with me? Do they like my style? So in 1 hour, I will know whether I can help them, and they will know my style. At the end of it, I either make a proposal or not. You're getting all of the flashlight on it as well.
Can we maybe meet with you one day?
Yeah, we can exchange contacts.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, we can exchange contacts.
He has so many questions, but he's shy to ask you here. Yeah?
It's,
Покраснел,
As I
покраснел.
heard that you're from Puglia, I understood that last year I had 3 different jobs in Italy, in Rome, in Milan, and in Sicily. So I had some experience, and that's why I'm asking you a very tricky question. What is the main difference which you really feel between Italian culture and British culture?
all right, tricky question.
I know.
Let me try and be politically correct.
Guys, please shut down the camera.
I'm blushing again now. Do we have a fan? No, so Italy is not a uniform country. Italy is very separated, depends where you go. And if I go to the northern part of Italy, I'm not as welcome as in other places because of my accent. And the world is the same wherever you go. It's not about England or France, Germany. What I find is people have filters, and these are normal in the human behavior. To me, I love living in England. This is a country of great opportunity. I spent 3 months there last year in April, May, and June, just before summer. It's lovely, it's fantastic. The culture is great. It's great to be there on holiday. However, in terms of growth, personal growth, business growth, opportunity, meeting people, being here today has been truly enjoyable, meeting people like Alexandra. In Italy it's a lot more difficult, a lot more challenging, because the mindset is fantastic, it's very connected, but the opportunity to grow is not as good. So I would choose England over Italy in many aspects, but culturally people have individual preferences. Someone once asked me, you're from Italy, so you ski. And I said, sorry? What do you mean? If you're from Italy, you ski. I'm from a town close to the beach. The closest mountain is probably 15,000 miles away, right? So it's not as unified, but this will be my answer.
Okay, that's a great answer.
And last
It's
one,
very similar to Ukrainian. We are not very united, like in sense of different parts of Ukraine. So we are very different with you. In Odessa, we go to beach, and in Lviv, they do something else. So I can understand you. Thank you.
You understand my pain, thank you.
the last question.
Yes, so what's your advice to you when you were like 20?
Nice.
We're going deeper and deeper.
It's tricky again.
Can we cut this from recording? When I was in my 20s, I was a mess, I can tell you that.
Oh!
No, jokes aside, not a mess. I'm thinking now, give me a few seconds to think. So 20, yeah, well, I come from southern Italy. It's not in my 20s, I was born in 95. It's a different setting. Now we've got technology. Back there is a very rural area. We had some very challenging situations that were also physically threatening. Some of you might have seen the movies, The Godfathers and those. So in that setting, these things do happen. They are realities, it's not just movies. And it can be quite challenging. I grew up in a family of small business owners in that part of the country, so you can really see that happening. For me, back then, it wasn't all about helping my family and trying to kind of work out how we can get mentally sane, which is also probably why I got into the work that I do. Things that I would tell myself, I don't think I could teach myself anything. I was doing the best I could with the resources that I had back then. And we always were a family that whenever there was a challenge, we came together, which is the beauty of the community you're creating. I think it's fantastic. And no one is perfect. No one is going to get along with one another. Probably, actually, to answer your question, I used to not like the fact people don't agree with me as much. And I thought everyone had to do things my way. But in reality, that's complete nonsense, if I can be a bit more direct.
I think it's good advice for every age.
But back then, sometimes you put too much energy into this conflictual situation, whereas the common goal is greater. So let's just forgive one another and keep going. So that's what I'll tell myself.
Maybe somebody wants last question? No? Because after this you will be have opportunity to ask something in Manuel, just on personal personal meeting.
Well, you need to translate that for me.
I try to speak English, but today it's not my powerful side. Okay.
Right, so thanks.
Main question?
Huh?
Where's your main question?
He joked from me because I always ask speakers who arrive to our meeting, because we have usually just girls and few boys.
I don't mind.
You know, just girls and Pavel. Today we have Indians, so
To be honest, I feel great when I see two dudes in the room. I say,
you're not alone, yeah?
Oh,
Yes, yes, sorry.
Another guy here.
Girls,
In the audience,
he
somewhere.
speak, he understands us, but so
Be careful what you see around.
because I start joke for you and be confused, very confused. So
I'm not going to ask what that is.
And general question, what Ilya asked me to ask you: do you marry?
Am I married?
Why Ilya asking?
I mean, he asked.
You forgot
Wait, he
that.
asked. I don't.
Ilya, I
No,
thought
man.
it's you.
But this is she's
Not the
main.
man, but that's it.
You not this time.
Safe distance.
I'm open business. I need for business just.
Now excuses. Okay, no worries. You're in London, it's fine.
The last thing I was expecting is a man who flirt with me tonight.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Stop it.
Later.
We're turning into a stand-up now.
It's good, it's nice, because we like, we love, yeah? Мы любим смеяться, правильно? Okay, thank you so much, Manuel. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Так, переходимо далі, але перш ніж ми перейдемо до наступного спікера,